Everything is fine. That's the problem. Work is manageable. The people you love are okay. Nothing is on fire. Nothing is overdue. No one is angry with you as far as you know. The day ahead is ordinary. The day behind was ordinary. And you feel guilty. Not about anything specific. Not tied to a moment you can point to and say, "There, that's what I did. That's why I feel this way." Just a low hum, a background unease, a sense that you should be doing something, fixing something, apologizing for something. You're just not sure what. You rest and it feels unearned. You enjoy something and the enjoyment comes with a shadow. You have a good day and spend part of it waiting for the thing that will make it cost something. And somewhere underneath all of it, a quiet, persistent feeling. I don't deserve this much ease. The first thing to understand about this feeling is what it actually is. Because most of the time, when nothing is wrong and you feel guilty anyway, what you're experiencing isn't guilt. It's anxiety wearing guilt's clothes. Guilt, properly understood, is a response to something specific. You did something or failed to do something that conflicts with your values. The guilt is attached to an action. It has a source you can name. What you're describing doesn't have a source. It's free-floating. It follows you from room to room, from morning to evening, attaching itself to whatever is available, your rest, your enjoyment, your ordinariness. Not because those things are wrong, but because the feeling needs somewhere to land. Psychologists call this free-floating anxiety, a state of low-level threat activation that isn't connected to a specific trigger. The nervous system is running in alert mode. It's scanning for danger, and when it can't find any, it generates the feeling anyway. Because to a nervous system that was trained to expect threat, the absence of threat isn't safety. It's a warning. Let's talk about what trains a nervous system to work that way. For many people who carry this kind of background guilt, it began in an environment where being okay wasn't safe. Not because the environment was constantly traumatic. Sometimes it was, but often it was subtler than that. It was a household where moods shifted unpredictably, where a good day could become a difficult one without warning, and the only way to manage that was to stay on alert. To never fully relax into the good times, because relaxing meant being caught off guard when things changed. It was a dynamic where being too happy, too comfortable, too at ease attracted attention. Where contentment was somehow provocative. Where the safest version of yourself was one that stayed a little diminished, a little apologetic, a little ready to absorb whatever came next. It was being praised one day and ignored the next. Being told you were good and then being told you were too much. Learning that okay was temporary, and that the gap between okay and not okay was not something you could predict or control. In those environments, guilt wasn't just a feeling, it was a function. If you felt guilty first, preemptively, before anyone had reason to be angry at you, you were prepared. If you kept a low-grade sense of wrongness running in the background, you couldn't be surprised by it. The guilt was a way of staying one step ahead of a world that had taught you it could turn at any moment. That system was adaptive. It kept you oriented. It kept you from being blindsided. And then you grew up and left that environment. But the system didn't get the memo. There's a specific psychological mechanism that keeps this pattern running long after it's needed. Psychologists sometimes call it magical thinking. A belief, usually unconscious, that your internal state can influence external outcomes. It sounds irrational when you say it plainly, and on a conscious level, most people who carry it would deny it entirely. But the logic runs something like this. If I feel guilty, if I keep a portion of suffering active, if I never fully claim happiness, then I won't have it taken from me. The universe, or the people around me, or something I can't name, they can't come for something I never fully took. Guilt becomes a kind of tribute, a preemptive payment for good fortune, a way of making yourself smaller than your happiness so that the happiness doesn't attract consequences. If I don't enjoy this too much, I won't lose it. If I don't get too comfortable, I won't be caught off guard. If I feel a little bad, the bad thing won't come. The tragedy of this is that it doesn't work. The bad things come when they come, regardless of how much you've pre-suffered. But it feels like it works, because every time nothing terrible happens on a good day, the guilt takes credit. See, I paid the toll. That's why you're still okay. And so the cycle continues. There's also something happening at a physiological level. Bessel van der Kolk, the trauma researcher, spent decades studying what prolonged stress and anxiety do to the body. What he found is that the nervous system has a baseline, a set point for how much activation it runs at rest. For people who grew up in unpredictable or threatening environments, that baseline gets set higher than it should be. Their resting state is vigilance. Their normal is a low-level readiness for something to go wrong. And when their life is genuinely okay, when there is nothing to be vigilant about, the nervous system doesn't register relief. It registers wrongness. The absence of threat feels like a gap where the threat should be. Calm feels like something missing. Peace feels like a mistake you haven't caught yet. The guilt isn't a moral failing. It isn't evidence that you've done something wrong. It's a nervous system that was calibrated for a world that no longer exists, still running the old program in a new context. So what do you do? The work here isn't to talk yourself out of the guilt. Reasoning with a nervous system response rarely works. The work is to gradually, through repeated experience, recalibrate the baseline. This means learning to stay in good moments without exiting them early. When you notice the guilt arriving on a fine day, instead of engaging with it, looking for what it might be attached to, trying to justify or resolve it, you can simply notice this is the old program running, and return gently to the present moment, the actual evidence. The fact that right now things are okay. This doesn't feel like enough. It feels too small for how persistent the feeling is. But the nervous system learns through repetition, through accumulated experience of, I stayed in the okay moment, I didn't pay the guilt toll, and nothing bad happened. The second part of the work is harder. It's examining what you believe you deserve. Because underneath the guilt, in most people who carry it, there is a quiet conviction that ease isn't for them. That enjoyment has to be earned and then earned again. That something about their particular existence requires a surcharge that other people's doesn't. That belief wasn't arrived at rationally. It was installed in an environment that needed you to stay small, stay available, stay a little perpetually not quite okay. And examining it, asking where it came from, what it was protecting, whether it still serves you, is the beginning of setting it down. You don't have to earn today's peace. It's already here. Everything is fine. And you're allowed to let that be true. Not with conditions, not with a portion withheld, not with one eye on the door, waiting for the thing that will make it cost something. Just fine. Just yours. The guilt that visits on good days isn't a moral compass. It isn't wisdom. It isn't the universe keeping you honest. It's an old alarm system, still running, in a house that hasn't needed it for years. You can't always turn it off, but you can learn to hear it and know what it is, and stay in the good day anyway. Being shared. Psychology for the things you feel but can't explain. If this landed, share it with someone who apologizes for existing too much.